How do we respond to the Pope when he appears to teach what is against the Catholic faith? What is the place of obedience there? How could so many prelates, bishops, cardinals, we can name them but we won't, not only go against the Catholic faith, but persecute Christians who want to live the truth of the faith? And how do we as sheep live, not just from the persecution growing now within the church, but the world? Digital currency and food shortage and arresting pro-lifers and faithful parents coming into homes, taking their children and bringing their children to camps. It's happening here in this state. So how do we live? Here is Bishop Athanasius Schneider.
So to continue the first question of Mother Miriam, so the Pope, we have to obey to the Pope when he is commanding us to keep the Catholic faith, unchangingly, integrally. But if a Pope is issuing orders or statements which are undermining evidently the integrity of the Catholic faith, as it was taught always through 2000 years, or the praxis, the canonical praxis of the Church, which would undermine the truth in the case of the divorced and marriage, if the Pope, and he did unfortunately permit divorced people who are living in an adulterous new union to go to Holy Communion. This is undermining the truth of the indissolubility of the marriage, which is a divine revealed truth, and the sacredness, the ineffable sacredness of the Holy Eucharist, the Holy Communion. In this case, we cannot obey, and we have to reverently appeal to the Pope to change this, to pray for him. So this is our attitude. When the Pope is commanding simply juridical issues which are not directly touching the faith, so we have to obey, let us say, the appointments of bishops or the creation of dioceses, the indulgences and so on. So we have to distinguish these two forms of obedience, what is directly touching the faith and in unchanging discipline of the Church or the sacredness of the Holy Liturgy. For example, the Mass of Ages, it is called the traditional Latin Mass, the Holy Mass of all the saints, which is a millennium-old rite. The Pope has no authority to abolish it or to limit it or to make a discrimination against it. This is not in his power, because it's so an old, venerable, sanctified prayer of the Church, which is the possession of the entire Church. It's the property of the entire Church of all the times. This venerable rite of the Holy Mass, the traditional Latin Mass, is not the private property of a Pope, of a single Pope. And therefore, when he is limiting this form of the Holy Mass, here we cannot obey simply out of love for our Holy Mother Church and out of love for the honor of the Apostolic See itself. And so in this case, we obey the popes and the Church of all times for the greater good of the Church. We cannot collaborate with something which is evidently harming the Church, depriving souls of such a venerable prayer, which is producing so much spiritual fruits, evidently. This is an example.